Hello and welcome to the Marin Women's Hall of Fame. I'm your host, Karen Anderson. For well over 20 years, the Marin Women's Hall of Fame has identified and honored outstanding women here in Marin County. To date, it's been well over 100. These women are women who have made major contributions in the field, in the various fields, and they have contributed nationally and internationally also. We're also, every week, we're going to be featuring one of our honorees, and we also are going to be telling you of the expanded programs of the Marin Women's Hall of Fame, including the Dine, Dialogue, and Develop dinners that are held almost monthly. So you can find out more information about that on our website. This morning, we are going to be featuring Jean Taylor, who is the 2010 honoree in the area of volunteer leadership. So nice to have you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
It is good to have you here. I have to, the slideshow at the beginning was shown, of course, so they're always so fun when they have the little girls, you as a little girl, is one of the things that is done at our gala dinner every March.
Correct.
When we honor the new honorees. And I noticed that in your particular one, there's a picture with Gorbachev.
Correct.
So tell us what that is about.
Well, many years ago, maybe 10, 15, he was in town going to set up his own foundation at the Presidio. And through Barbara Boxer's office, my husband and I were invited to attend the function in a working capacity. I was a waitress passing food, and my husband was passing drinks. It was really a most exciting evening. They were sweet and warm and embracing of all of us. His wife, who unfortunately is now deceased, was absolutely beautiful. And she came down the steps and just practically wanted to put her arms around everyone.
Oh, what a fabulous experience.
They had translators with them, and they wanted to know who you were, what you did, what your family was about. It was very, very personal.
Very personal. That's
Yes.
that's wonderful to hear. Well, that's, of course, one of many amazing experiences that you've had in your career.
Correct.
And volunteer leadership is a unique category because not only have you volunteered, but through volunteering, you have shown outstanding leadership, and you've been an incredible role model to other people who want to go into volunteer service, which is a big part of who I think all people are who really have grown and become successful.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, and I wanted to say that I think it started, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that you started as an educator yourself back in
Correct.
Ohio, and that's the whole
Correct.
idea of education has really become the platform for your volunteer work. Take us back to that little girl in Ohio.
Well, I was fortunate enough to be born to a blue-collar family in Cincinnati, Ohio, where since 1895 there's been a college prep, junior high, and high school. In the 6th grade, all students are given the same test. Those who pass are invited to attend, and I was lucky enough to be one of those who was invited to attend. And being only one of 3 in my class, I decided to go, not knowing anyone really, but scared to death, but also excited. And it became very clear to me that that choice when I was 11 years old set the course for my life. And to me, the key to everything is education.
Now you hold a master's degree.
I do.
In what field of education?
Well, first of all, I have a master's in psychology with a specialty in guidance, educational guidance. And I also have several credentials, one of which is for working with kids who have learning disabilities and special ed needs. So that's what I did for the majority of my service while teaching in Mill Valley in the middle school.
Yeah, and you have wonderful experiences there. You really became very connected. Tell us a little bit about those years as a teacher.
I was fortunate enough to be teaching as a specialist when there was money for gifted programs. And
we remember those days.
2 years in a row, I was given 10 students out of each of the 4th, 5th, and 6th grades. And the curriculum was up to me to decide, and I had the students help me decide what it was they wanted to study. One year, for instance, the 4th graders, mostly boys, 7 out of 10 were boys, wanted to read The Hobbit. We read every single word of The Hobbit out loud, and they loved it.
How long did that take?
Practically the whole year, because since we only had 50 minutes a day. But they loved it. They were always right in class on time. At the same time, the 5th graders decided that they wanted to study Greek and Roman mythology. We did that. Once we had completed that, we moved on to Norse mythology. Then they wanted to learn about the history and the customs of the countries and the food. So pretty soon, one of the students suggested that we make up our own Greek tragedy, comedy slash comedy, which we did, costumes, everybody had their own role. And we had a big Greek orgy of food and drink and invited all the parents to attend.
That sounds like
so it was fun.
Well, you know, I can tell from your energy that the kids must have responded really positively to you.
Well, it was their energy that I responded
know, but
to.
That's part of what leadership is about too, I think, is being able to inspire other people, and you obviously inspired those children. And all the time that you were teaching, you also were volunteering.
It's another one of those things where a door opens and you just walk through. When I was working at Dominican College at the time on a master's degree, it was suggested to us that we take the course that was given by the Suicide Prevention Center on how to become a counselor.
Now that's interesting.
It was.
And it's like, so why did they pick that particular area?
Because they knew that that particular training tightened and sharpened your skills in listening.
Okay.
And I found out that I was not a very good listener. I was really good at reading body language and understanding people's emotions when I was looking at them, but I wasn't hearing everything that was said. So for me, it was a really important move to be able to add that to my skill set. So once I was there, I became, of course, hooked and became one of the volunteers who shared a shift every other week for 4 hours. And to this day, I serve on their advisory committee. And so I've been connected with them since, I think, 1970.
Wow,
that's a long time.
Long time,
yes.
but who's counting,
Yeah,
right?
right.
That's wonderful, though. So that volunteer effort led you into some work with seniors.
That's right. At about the same time, a close friend of mine was working as a nurse with the Marin Adult Day Health Services Center. And she made it clear that they needed some help building up a board. And I was so in awe of the work that she was doing, I volunteered to get involved there. And it was a wonderful experience.
That's great.
Yeah.
Then, and maybe I shouldn't say just then, but and I think one of the most amazing opportunities that presented itself, and it's not just, a lot of people are presented with opportunities, but they might not grab it.
Right.
And that was when you were asked to work on a homeless commission.
That's correct. And that happened in the late 80s, 1980s. And I was asked by a friend who was a supervisor if I would serve on a commission. And I was quite frank, I knew nothing about the issue. I knew that it existed, but I was willing to learn. And through...
And that's where your education comes
that's
in.
Right,
It's
that's
right.
right.
There, yeah.
The first thing that the commission as a whole did was to go out and speak to all the people who were working in the community in that arena. And as a group, we decided that our most important goal was to educate the community as to what the problems that led to such a state were and what the possible permanent solutions would be. So first we had to learn ourselves. Then we had to use our skills to educate the community so that the fears that they had might be alleviated. And along with that was communicating. And so all of a sudden we came up with educate, communicate, advocate. So that's
like
pretty
that.
much all what I followed throughout the rest of my
So what was the
volunteer
main
service.
thing that you learned about the real problem of homelessness and what was causing it?
It was varied. Some of it had to do with mental and alcohol and drug problems, but also a lot of it had to do with loss of jobs due to medical problems, lack of insurance, no savings, and you know, we were just amazed at how many people that we knew in our community were touched by it that none of us knew about.
Yeah. So after all this learning happening, how long did this study, how long did it take you to kind of put this information together?
It was only about a year. We
Okay.
spent a long, hard year pulling it together. And then we came up with the advice of the local providers. And what they felt they needed was an 80-bed residential job training center. And that really piqued my interest because...
And that's a big project.
It was. But there was a committee of 10. We shared the load. We walked on a parallel track. And whatever was asked of us, each one did it. Some
Isn't
people...
that great to be a part
it was
of a team
great.
like that?
Nobody
Yes.
had any hidden agenda. And we had a wonderful young woman on our committee who was a public relations person who had worked in LA within this arena. And she suggested that we go to the IJ, ask them to become our media partners. We contacted the then managing editor, who was Mike Townsend. He said he would give us 20 minutes before his editorial board. We prepared for 3 days to get ready for those 20 minutes, 4 of us. Everybody had their role. Everybody knew what it was that we had to get across and in 20 minutes. So practice was important. And we wanted to communicate the right thing and what our direction was. And we wound up being there for an hour and 45 minutes.
Wow.
And after a week of their looking into it, they said yes, they would be our partners. And I remember Mike walking into a meeting and throwing on the table, he said, this is what you're going to do, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is what we as a paper are going to do. And we met every 3 weeks, and we helped them put together 60 articles that they ran in the paper over a 10-month period.
That is almost unheard of.
It
But
was
I
at the
think-
time.
Yeah, well, I think even now. And I think it really speaks to the real authenticity of that project and how people really do want to solve the problem. And they're, the best way, one of the first steps, of course, is to let people know about it.
Well, that was it.
Yeah.
And by using the facility that we had both at the IJ and eventually also through Pacific Sun, we were able to educate people as to what the problems were and how they could help with the solutions. In the end, we had 1,500 people who sent us money through the knowledge that they had gained from the IJ and Pacific Sun articles. And we had as much as $1 and as large as $100,000 in checks that were unsolicited.
How did you feel when you opened that envelope and there was a $100,000 check?
It was amazing. And a group of 4 of us met at the Dipsy Cafe every Friday morning at 7:30. And I would have collected all the envelopes unopened, and we opened them together. Phenomenal. And it was like winning the lottery. It was
That's
just
great.
so exciting to see the response from the community.
Now you raised, as I understand it, $3.3 million through that initial drive, and there's
Yes.
also Fireman's Fund and many other
Yes.
sponsors. What did you do with the money? What was the specific program, and what did you advocate during that
Well,
time?
it was a capital campaign, first of all. And we went out into the community and tried to educate and communicate to everyone that not only did we want to provide housing and programs for them, we also wanted to make it a job component. And that was the hook that most people grabbed onto, because they could see that over the years we'd been providing shelter and food, but the most important thing was to give them hope, give them dignity, independence, and some direction as to how they could go on and correct their lives.
And as I understand it, a big part of the job component is a culinary institute.
Correct.
And I think that's amazing because anyone can hire and it's called what?
Well, it's called Fresh Start
Fresh
Catering,
Start.
but at the New Beginning Center, we have had a culinary school. Where
And this is all located at the former Hamilton Air Force
It's
Base.
correct.
I
And
don't think
it's
we
been in place
mentioned
since
that.
April 1, year 2000. And it was such a successful part of the job component, of which there were 3 other parts, one dealing with gardening skills, another dealing with learning computer skills, and then in-home care skills. But the one that was most successful was the people that we could put out into the community in jobs. And one of the examples I can give you is that we have a woman currently who is working at Whole Foods as an intern at butcher. She makes $12 an hour. When she completes her internship, she'll be hired and be making $33 an hour.
Oh, that's
so
amazing.
it's, these
And
are
she probably didn't feel she had much hope. I mean, I think that's one of the things,
yeah.
yes, that
Initially.
this really
Yeah.
leads to. Now you have also now a second phase. You're going to
We've
got about
completed.
$9 million more for the next phase.
Oh no! What we've already, the second phase on the campus has already been completed. We had a capital campaign to raise $9.3 million, which provides a new culinary institute that will help teach 30 to 40 students at a time. Connected to it is a teaching kitchen, a demonstration kitchen where we bring in famous chefs from all over to give the community access to this. Within that is a public venue, so you and I can hire it for parties, hire the culinary school, and that helps the whole program become financially self-sufficient. Next to it are 32 units of affordable housing.
That's great.
And some of the students in the program are in the housing, but not all of them. All of the people who are in the housing have other types of directions they're going to. So it did open. It's been open almost 2 years. It opened in November 2 years ago. And we're just so thrilled with what it's done for the community.
You know, I think there's something about when you have a volunteer effort and you actually see the results, and that this has to be exciting, and then I think it inspires more people to get involved.
It is. It's catching.
Everybody,
it is. Everybody wants to be part of it because they see what a worthwhile thing it is.
Well, and because of all your volunteer work, you didn't leave it there. You have some other organizations that you're now working with. Tell us a little bit about them.
I've been working with the Helen Vine Detox Center. It's both a drug and alcohol detox center, and it's funded both privately and by the County of Marin. And our objective is to get people off the streets, detoxed, and then put into programs, longer-term programs, which we don't offer, but are offered elsewhere, so that these people also can get back on their feet and contribute to society. So it's a well-respected group. We have a lot of challenges, and we can always use a lot of support from the community on this particular issue.
Right. And then you have another project having to do with justice.
Yes. For the past 12 years, I think, I've been concerned about some issues revolving the courts. I not pointing the finger at any one particular person or any particular court. I think that the laws in California are good. I think that sometimes the laws are not being followed. And in that process, probably unwittingly, people have been injured. Their lives have been changed and affected in a negative way. And 4 years ago, with another group of people, we formed a group called the Center for Judicial Excellence, and we want to work collaboratively with our courts and the officers of the court to correct what we think how it would make a better service for our community. We've had a little bit of luck going to the state legislature, saying that not only do we feel like there are problems in our community, but there are problems throughout the state. And eventually we learned they're not limited to our state, it's nationwide.
Yeah. And of course, for you, what you're concerned about are children.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's mainly, but also, and we're also worried about what's happening to elders. We're concerned about other things that happen in all the other courts. We've had forums for the last 4 years which have covered the gamut from traffic court, family court, probate court, civil court, and we're trying to educate again the community as to what the needs are and how we could correct it so that it would be better for all of us.
Yeah. Well, looking back and looking forward, first of all, what of all of the many things that you've done in the area of volunteerism, but you were identified for volunteer leadership. Yeah. What sticks out in your mind the most? Where do you feel the most satisfied with the work that's been done?
Quite frankly, I've enjoyed all of it. I haven't even mentioned the work I did with the Marin Arts Council and with the Alter Theater group that I'm with. To me, it was a way of learning about my community. I learned things that I never knew existed. I met people that were so involved and so creative and so dedicated. So they inspired me, and everything I have done and hope to do in the future has been in collaboration with other people. It's never been me alone, and I will say that to the day I die. Well, it's the people I get to do things. I get to do things with other people.
Yeah. So what did you learn about yourself through all of this?
Well, it's interesting. I learned that a label that was given to me a long time ago, which I love because I was a history major and it was attributed to Teddy Roosevelt, but that said, "Walk softly but carries a big stick." Yeah. And I think that's been the way my personality my whole life. From the time I was young, I learned to be diplomatic and learned to listen and to figure things out in my head. But once I took something on, I could use a big stick if I needed to get it done. So it's tenacity, I think, tenacity.
That's a great legacy and role model for some of the young women that we are mentoring through the Marin Women's Hall of Fame. Now, in March, you were honored at the annual Marin Women's Hall of Fame dinner.
I was.
And it's always in March because that's Marin Women's History Month.
Correct.
And how did you feel when you got that phone call and they said, Jean Taylor, you have been nominated and you have been accepted into the Marin Women's Hall of Fame? How did that feel?
Well, first of all, it was very humbling and exciting to me both that Phyllis Thielen chose to nominate me. She's a woman with whom I worked a lot and whom I respect.
Who is also an honoree.
And she's also an honoree.
Yes.
And so I was delighted that she put forth a nomination for me, but I was really floored in the first week of December when I received the phone call. And so I don't know how to do cartwheels, but I was doing them mentally.
Yes. I can sort of picture you doing that, Jean. That would be,
I can stand on my head, but I chose not to do that at that moment. Yeah.
And so did you have, was your whole family at the dinner?
Actually, my son and daughter and my daughter-in-law were there. Unfortunately, my son-in-law was serving our nation in the Navy and was unable to come. My mother, who's almost 97, came from Ohio, and she was thoroughly thrilled to be there. We had close neighbors, close friends, people that I've worked with on committees, and it was a great celebration.
It's an exciting evening.
It was really wonderful.
And I can imagine that at 97, you probably attribute so much of the work you've done to what your mother has taught you.
Oh, absolutely. She and my father took care of everybody in their family and in their family of friends. And their home was always welcome to people in need. So I learned that from them. And at 90, my mother started being a fundraiser.
Oh, really?
So she told a cute story. She told me that she was really worried because she had to raise $900,000. And in a year, she raised $1.9 million.
Oh my goodness! There's something in your DNA, I guess.
She was turning her cartwheels too.
That's funny. Well, I think in addition to being a fundraiser, I think you're a fundraiser too.
I like to have fun.
That's great, and I think that's probably why you're successful. Is you bring a sense of joy to the work that you do.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
It has been an absolute delight talking with you. Thank you so much for taking time to visit with us.
And thank you.
This has been really wonderful, and I would like to invite all of you, when you can, to visit the Marin Women's Hall of Fame website, marinwomenshallofFame.org, and on there you can get information about the gala dinner in March, about our monthly Dine, Dialogue, Develop dinners, where many of our honorees come back to talk to the community. You have a chance to enter into dialogue with our honorees, and then also to network with some just amazing women. And we really encourage all of you to also think about mentoring and getting involved in the Halo Auxiliary, a way to really serve the community. Thank you so much for being with us, and we will see you next week.